I did a thing and I registered myself for a Battlestar Galactica LARP called Odysseus, which is all the way in Finland. But a new LARP means a new costume, and I'm excited to build another one in the awesome genre of sci-fi. Odysseus is a LARP with pre-written characters, and as we recently got the character sheets, I can start building. I'm going to be playing a 19-year-old non-binary pop star, which is already going to be interesting on its own. And when booking the flight, for some reason, I decided that my small suitcase would be enough. So the entire costume, plus all of the travel stuff, should be able to fit in the small suitcase and the backpack. But luckily the location that we will be playing in is generally 20 degrees Celsius all day round, because spaceship. But for the way that I brainstorm, this is more than plenty. Immediately my mind starts going to a bunch of pins I saved years ago on Pinterest, with intricate fabric and pattern manipulation. And this costume is a very good excuse to try that out. So I've done some brainstorming and some drawing, and I figured with the fact that the character that I'm going to play is a pop star and that they were rescued off planet in an outfit that they were wearing just after a performance, I should go for a performance outfit. So go a bit fancy, go maybe a bit weird. Let me just show you what I've been drawing. So enjoy my mediocre drawing skills. It's not perfect, but it's plenty for me to get my ideas on paper, and in this case, to show you guys what I want to do. So when I was browsing across all the Pinterest boards, the idea of weird kinds of fabric manipulation crossed my mind again. It's something I've been wanting to do in a project for a long while already, and I think that this is a perfect one for it. I also found some pins with weird closures at the top of the pants, and I think if I keep the pants simple otherwise, is plenty. That way we can focus on the top half, and not every project has to take months on completion, because I don't have that kind of time. So the idea for the top is a tight-fitting crop top, so bare midriff top with all sorts of fabric manipulation, and maybe on the back to have that weird kind of twisty thing going on across the spine. And over it I want to make a short jacket so I can still do some sort of temperature regulation with either long sleeves or no sleeves. And with the jacket I might want to do something weird with fabric or seams around the shoulders as well. And on the back I might want to see if it can get up from the top so that this stands up a bit. I don't know how to draw it exactly, but that way you can really see everything that's happening on the back, on the spine. So these are my initial ideas. Let's see what actually happens with them. Because with the drawings I can start looking for the patterns that I'm actually going to use. And surprisingly enough, I found something in just normal pattern magazines that I think I might actually use without any alterations. It does mean that the closure at the top will be slightly less fancy than in my drawing, but not having to worry about pattern alterations or very weird construction things for the pants might actually be really nice, because that means that I can focus all of the time that I need on the top, because that is going to be very interesting. Like the people that follow me on Ko-Fi have already been able to see, I might have splurged on some pattern books. This is a series that I've been looking at for multiple years already and never really found a reason to get them, but now I do. These are, well, like the series name says, it's pattern magic, and truly the things that are made in these books are magic. And I think one of these patterns fits absolutely perfectly for the tight-fitting cropped top that I have in mind. What I also did was go through my fabric stash and look for any fabric that I could use. I think I got these two that are perfect for mock-ups. If I want to make a pants mock-up, I can use this slightly looser fabric. And I think with the fact that this is slightly more sturdy and has a bit of structure, this is perfect to use as a mock-up for the top. And I might actually use this purple for the pants. You might be able to recognize it, but I think it also has nice enough drape to make for a loose-fitting pair of pants that are nice and bright, which is exactly what the costume brief gives me, and the color works really well for a performance outfit, so let's go for it. With that, we can get started in making the patterns. The book I'm using for the top comes with a pattern for a standard body block that you can photocopy. And then you can alter it to make the design that you want. But first, let's see if we can get the standard body block to fit. I will be wearing a binder with this costume, and my measurements while wearing it fall right between sizes, so I need to adjust for that in the side seam. With this we have the basic pattern, which should theoretically fit my size, but I'm not a fan of the giant amount of darts. Not all of them are necessary for this pattern, and I think this top should have as few seams as possible, so let's at least get rid of the one in the back. Aside from it looking more sleek, I also figured this fits the briefing we were given for an upper class character from this planet, where the overall feel is statuesque, structured, and minimalistic, striking clean lines. Then it is time to make a mock-up for the body block. The nice thing about it being a mock-up is that I can just trace the patterns with a pen. This makes it easier to line up precisely, and it really doesn't matter that it has pen marks. The only things I ended up sewing together were the darts, shoulder seams and side seams, so it went together pretty quickly. There we go, one mock-up put together, and there's already one thing that I learned from this. It's going to need at least one, possibly two closures, because at this moment I cannot get the mock-up on if these two seams are stitched closed, so I had to open this one again. And right now they're on the mannequin with pins. So for a proper fitting, I also need to ask my partner to pin me into this, and as he's not available at this moment, we're gonna do this at a later time. But from what I can see so far, I think it fits relatively okay. But from what I could see by putting it on and me holding the seams closed, I think the bust darts are on somewhat the right location. And that's going to be one of the most relevant things, because I'm not confident enough to fully move this around, but things like the waist being slightly too big or slightly too small are things I can easily fix. So for now, let's just leave this be and continue on the pants. For a complete, this is not going to be linear in any way, chaos crafts. Which means it is once again mock-up time. And in the case of pants, I mostly want to check the fit around the waist and the crotch area. So to save some fabric, I'm not cutting them a full length and not putting them together completely either. Just the side seams and the outside waistband parts are plenty. I did already learn that there are some interesting things going on in the construction of these pants, but I'll save explaining those once I get to the actual thing. Yeah, the pants don't fit as well as I'd hoped, but at least this is workable. The parts that I care about most fit well, as in the crotch seam is placed where I want it to be and there are no weird creases or anything, and it doesn't ride up my butt, which is also really nice. But as you can see, it is way too wide. I could actually pin this seam closed, that's going to need a zipper eventually, and get it on, with apparently not even needing the zipper. And also I want it to end up here, so it needs to be a tiny bit higher. But that's doable. From what I can see, I think it is going to be enough to just pin in the side seams and make it tighter that way. It's going to be a bit of a puzzle considering there are pockets and zippers here, but I think we can get around that. Here we are a few days later and I am pinned into my top, which was kind of funny in a way because my partner does not really know how to sew. So he started pinning it in like this, which makes the seams a lot more difficult to match up properly compared to, well, doing it like this. But when he started on the side seam, I could correct him. Anyway, I am pretty happy with how it fits as it is, but it kinda is too big, which is funny compared to the alterations that I had to make according to the pattern and my sizes. Anyway, it's too big at the bottom, which you can see especially well at the back with how far this is sticking out. So I am going to make that a bit smaller. And the bust points are in the sort of right location, except that, well, with the binder under it, I do have space left over. But I did notice that if I pull the entire front panel back, it actually fits pretty well. So I think I'm gonna take a bit off the side seam, and that should be enough for at least the front part. And then for the bottom part, I'll have to play around with both the side seams and the other seams that are in here. Once that is done, we can start actually making it into the pattern magic things. So what I did for now is put some pins in the seams. I know they're not even at all, especially on the back. Nope, not even. However, this does fit a lot better, I think. And with these pins, I can at least see what the final sizes should be. So these pins give me an indication of the changes I will need to make eventually. So I decided to grab the original pattern, and guess what? If I would have decided to follow the original size, it would have been 1.5 centimeters smaller on each side seam. So in total that's 9 centimeters smaller, which would have been slightly too small for what I need at the moment, but it's actually kind of close. Nonetheless, I don't think I'm gonna add all of this back in the side seams because it was also standing out a lot in the back. So we also want to do something with the seams in the back. I do think it is best to keep the middle back seam as straight as possible, which means that anything that I want to take out from the back is going to be taken out from these darts. So I measured for 8 centimeters to be taken out from the lower seam. However, I did notice that when I sat down, the 8 centimeters was actually getting a bit tight, so I think I'm going to keep it at 6. Which means that for me, I think the easiest thing to do is to take out 2 centimeters per side seam. So per pattern piece, that is 1 centimeter. And then divide the last 2 centimeters over the darts in the back. I think that's also really nice because when I put my arms forward, I noticed that I did need the full width here. So we don't want to take out anything here. Which means that anything that we take out at the bottom, we don't want to end up too high, and I think that this is a nice height to end it. I'm also not a really big fan of this dart, so I might actually want to take it out at some point, which means that we're going to take out the 2 centimeter on this dart, and because we have 2 back pieces, that is 1 centimeter per dart that I'm going to take out extra. So let me alter these pattern pieces. No wait, I'm not going to alter the pattern pieces. So let me pin these changes in the mock-up, and let's do a refit. One sewing session and another request to my partner to pin me into this later, and we can fit the mock-up. Yes, there are some wrinkles here, but that's because it's only pinned in with 2 pins, but to see if it fits, that's more than plenty. And well, I'm really happy with this. I think this fits pretty perfectly. Yes, there is still some space around here, but I don't mind that. This is quite a sturdy fabric, so this at least gives me space to move around. And if I sit down, I need some more space here anyway. But I don't think it looks too wide. Which means that after this we can get started on actually making the pattern. And after that actually making the mock-up, because this is just a sloper. Now we can get started on the pattern. For that it is once again back to the papercraft. The sloper patterns are traced on sturdier paper. This way I can keep the sloper patterns as is for future projects, and the sturdier paper can be taped together on the mannequin as if it is the actual garment, which we can then use as the paper pattern for the magic folding pattern.
2 hours later.
I might need some better tape. So as there is apparently not a lot of logic in the position of the pleats, or at least not one I can find, that makes it really difficult to decide where I want the pleats to be. I don't think I want more pleats than that there are in the example, because then it will get all very squished together, and that means that I will have less seam allowance to work with to actually fold them, so it will get a lot more finicky. I also think I don't want any less pleats than that there are in the example, because, well, I think the effect is gone then. So I'm just gonna stick to the amount of the pleats that's in the example, but the exact location, yeah. The pattern is also not given in such a way that I can easily copy it, so I just gotta play around with the placement and hope that it works. So for the first pleat, we do want to start at the bust point. We're gonna end up somewhere here. And then I need a line that is on that line. Wait, there? Okay, I'm gonna need a ruler anyway. And I guess I want a line somewhere here, because this one will also go to the bust point. Then I can put a line somewhere halfway this height, so that will be there. Another really annoying thing that I found out is that this line in the example is curved, which is really tricky because all of the other lines appear to be straight. This pattern is whack, I guess. Pattern magic, I should have expected it, but nonetheless, it's going to be fun. Okay, right now we got a few points on here. It's probably not something you can decipher, so let me see if I can draw my ideas on here in a way that's reasonable, and then let me show you what I plan to do. I must say, for the fact that I just somewhat randomly put down some dots, I'm actually quite happy with the way that these lines are, especially this part. The only two lines I think I'm gonna change slightly is this one and this one, because I think this one is rather flat. And this one, even though I'm gonna make it slightly curved later, I think it's nicer if this is somewhat tilted more to that side. For this one, instead of having it end here, I think I'm gonna make it end here, so only the slightest bit lower. So instead of having it extend, I can also make it end up here, which means that if I still draw a line from this point to this point, that line is automatically also tilted a lot. It's somewhat difficult to see with the double lines now, but I think I really like this. Which means we can finally turn this into a pattern that we can sew with. The whole idea of working with patterns this way is to think of ideas as shapes on the mannequin in 3D and then try to convert it back to a pattern that can lay flat, so it can be cut out of fabric. With this one, we can start cutting into the pattern towards the bust points, as these are the points that shape the garment the most. That already makes it lay a lot flatter. But for the other folds we want to make, we still need the extra fabric to, well, actually fold the thing. So these are cut as well, so they can be spread later. After this, the pattern still wasn't entirely flat at the waist darts, and I noticed the book had extended it all the way to the bust point. So after redrawing that, getting rid of the dart was easy to do as well, and the entire pattern could now lay flat. Then, by spreading the pieces to allow for seam allowance and folding fabric, the pieces could be traced on paper one by one to form the final paper pattern. And I guess this is a good moment to split them up, because originally I had kinda thought to make one big video about making the costume. However, the construction did not entirely go as planned, so I have a lot more footage than thought, and it would have been one very long video. Which I guess is also kind of a spoiler already for the next one, so you know what you can look forward to. Irregardless, thank you all for watching this one, and I guess that means I can only say you might want to subscribe to stick around for the next one.